Yes, we are here and now. This is Steve Struggle there, and myself, Dr.
Hello.
Abrahim.
Hello.
Steve
Hi.
Struggle is an elder of the Panther movement. I'm an elder of the Jewish Bundist movement, directly from the Warsaw Ghetto, actually, by way of my mother who escaped and jumped over the wall. And here I am, conceived in a refugee camp, even in Breslau, Germany, after the Holocaust was over. I distinguish between the Holocaust and the World War II. Two different wars, two wars happening at the same time. The war against the Jewish people who had no allies. Nobody came to support the Jewish people who were being massacred. Nobody was protesting anywhere, calling on the United States to bomb the death camps. No, nothing. And the United States, was quite content to remain neutral and had economic relations with Nazi Germany until somewhat late. So here I am, and there you are. We're survivors. Iran is trying to survive now too, and they're doing a very good job of it. We were just mentioning that there's this initiative, for Iran to be integrated into the military alliance launched by Turkey, Pakistan, a friend of Iran, and Saudi Arabia, which was a friend of the United States of America, but which is no longer a friend of the United States of America. So that's a very interesting development. This is like a wing, a military wing developing out of the BRICS movement, non-aligned movement, as it used to be called initially. So if it's not a military pact of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan against Iran, but rather for Iran, this one, you know, first of all, contradicts, the news reports made by the Western media, who are hoping that it's an alliance against Iran, but it isn't. So I think this is a very important development. In fact, I think we can call it a breakthrough, because Saudi Arabia is no longer held at the throat, by the United States of America anymore. Oman as well has a treaty, commercial maritime uh, waterway agreement, which seems to be working well. And Iran has a transit agreement now with Iraq, and Iraqi oil is now being shipped out of the Strait of Hormuz in agreement with Iran and probably paying its fee. So that was right then and there this week. Those are two breakthroughs that have taken place. I guess we should be optimistic, Steve. What do you think?
Well, initially I had the same view that it was going to be an anti-Iran axis.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Well, I think this is one we're just gonna have to see how the parties involved operate and how behind the scene the U.S. is going to operate. Because, you know, see, Turkey as a NATO member kind of takes a dominant position militarily in the alliance, even though Iran has shown it can certainly retaliate against a NATO member attack, i.e., the United States. That's for sure. But it is interesting that Iran at least has reported that it is being invited to join this alliance.
Yeah.
Well, we just see what happened. It is. I did not expect that. You know, and I thought it was going to be an anti-Iran alliance, but Iran when it first came, it's interesting how this is being covered. When that was first announced, the some news media, I want to say the Iranian news media, gave Prime Minister Arachi's support for this, and other news sources thought it was an interesting development. Um, but we heard one or two reports that there was dissension inside the Iranian parliament regarding this. I heard that. That I heard that report from one source. So I think the real issue is in Iran, what is the peace feeling about this? Because Iran has bombed Saudi Arabian oil fields, if I'm not mistaken, during the U.S. during this U.S. conflict. And if that is the case, if they're asked to join this alliance, then neither Saudi Arabia can attack anybody in the alliance, nor can Iran.
That's right.
You could not attack anybody inside the alliance.
Yeah.
So therefore, any kind of disagreements they would have to be handled through negotiations through the alliance. I'm assuming. So it would seem to me that the U.S. might be elbowed out of any kind of intervention if this is a bona fide pact and if Iran, excuse me, if Saudi Arabia and Turkey don't allow the U.S. to meddle in their military affairs, it would require negotiations to resolve issues, which in most things is a better way of handling relations between countries. So, I mean, I think if it works, it would be a possible way of developing a mechanism for a security architecture, as it's called, between the countries
Hmm.
and the
I,
United States. I don't know. I mean, could there even be U.S.? I'm sure there could be U.S. bases in those countries. There's a U.S. base in Turkey now. There's still U.S. facilities in Saudi Arabia, so
oh,
necessarily
yeah.
put the U.S. out because the U.S. is still there. So
Yes, you reminded me. There's
yeah,
50 nuclear bombs in Turkey,
yeah.
they
So
placed there by the
my
United
issue
States.
is what is the role of U.S. imperialism? What is
Hmm.
the role of the U.S. military in these countries if this alliance exists or comes to it? Well, the alliance exists now. So what is their role in those countries? If they're still there, then they can still, I assume, use it to attack Iran or anybody else. Or are those bases going to have to go? I don't know.
Well, those countries, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, could not allow the United States to use those bases in those countries to attack Iran under the provisions
True.
of such an
That's
agreement.
that's
Yeah, that's
true.
where it was.
That's very true.
They don't
I
even
mean,
have to, expel them. They just forbid them from using those bases. Yeah.
I think I think that's something people should be see. This is something people should talk about within the United States and within the UK and the imperialist countries. If this alliance, no, if this alliance exists now, they may bring Iran in. They may not. We'll see. Hopefully, I think hopefully they will bring it in. I think Iran being in the alliance would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's especially interesting, Steve, that it was the alliance that invited Iran in. It wasn't Iran that went begging.
right, right. Well, that's true. That's true, but like I said, Karachi did make a good statement supporting it 2 weeks ago when it first
Yeah.
happened.
Uh,
So there may have been some negotiations, conversations
yeah.
between the foreign ministry of the countries or even the presidents of the countries. You
So
know,
that speech must have led to the invitation for Iran to join in.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. So
Yeah.
the role to me is one. If they're invited, they're no longer going to attack Saudi Arabia. That's out, which helps Saudi Arabia. Okay,
Yeah,
I mean,
especially because it's under attack from Yemen, so to be attacked,
right.
from two sides at the same time is not desirable, no.
And then, well, if they join, would Saudi Arabia ask Iran to intervene diplomatically or behind the scenes in the Yemen conflict?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because how this works. If say I'm in an alliance with you, I can have a meeting with you within the alliance. It isn't in the news. It's not in. There's no diplomatic record of it. This is an alliance meeting, and I'm having this issue with the Yemenis, and I know you are allies with them for the acts of resistance. Can you help me?
yeah.
Or you now be compelled to attack Yemen because you're in the alliance,
Ah, oh yeah. Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, but Iran wouldn't.
Right, exactly.
Very interesting.
Or will you give me can we share intelligence on Yemen? See, that's the danger of Iran being involved in this.
Yeah.
Because you know Saudi Arabia has some ulterior motive.
Yeah, so the war between Yemen and Saudi Arabia would have to be resolved first before Iran could join in. Yeah,
Probably so.
yeah,
Probably so, because once they join, if they say an attack on what one is attack on all, and then Yemen attacks, Iran is compelled to help in some way, unless
yeah.
there's a clause in there that says, well, if it's a minor little scrap, if it's a minor little, squabble, we're not getting involved. But some major, like
Yeah, that's
attacking
major,
oil
all right.
fields,
Like an oil refinery being bombed,
huh?
is major for sure.
That's major. That's
Yeah,
major.
yeah,
So I would think Iran now, if they're going to do this, they'll need to talk to Yemen right now.
yeah.
Now, look, dude, we got this thing going on. Maybe, I mean, Yemen. I doubt they'll invite Yemen. But if they invited Yemen, then the whole thing would have to come to an end, wouldn't it?
Mhm. The other interesting case is Syria right now,
Sure
because in
is. Yep.
Syria, there were Turkish troops that were being brought into a Syrian military base there in the north,
Well,
and
actually,
Israel bombed them.
actually, the story on that. Actually, the story
Yeah.
on that. Yesterday, and my story is a little bit different. Turkey is saying that there were no. Israel is saying that Turkey was planning activity at the base that could endanger Israel's security. What a broad statement.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So, um, I looked this up, and a group called the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project said there had been 300 to 400 strikes against Syria by Israel in the last year and a half. That's quite a few, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
And Turkey is saying that, hold on here, let me just get this for you. I can read it exactly. Because it's a very interesting story you mentioned. Yeah, it's very interesting story. You it Israel attacked the airport, this airport, a runway on the airport, and they said it was based on intelligence, but they did not release the intelligence. And it just seems very strange that they bombed the air base near Aleppo, saying Syria was about to permit Turkish forces to deploy there. This is from Reuters on Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
And
Huh.
Syria's foreign minister Assad al-Shaibani said Turkish officials had visited for training and military cooperation purposes, but that there was no plan for a Turkish base, permanent presence, or deployment of Turkish forces in the facility.
Mhm.
Turkish Defense Ministry said no Turkish delegation was at the base immediately before or during the strike and condemned Israelis' attacks as reckless. Now, the way when I wrote my article, I focused on sovereignty, even though that can be a touchy subject.
Mhm.
That Turkey has a I mean, that Syria has a sovereign right to have military relations with anybody it wants. It does, like it or not. And if they want a relationship with Turkey, they have that right, like it or not. So what right does Israel have to bomb the airport? None.
Mhm.
This is simply an attack of Israel saying, we will control your security architecture. And my
Mhm.
answer is, how dare you?
Mhm.
Even though it's nothing new. Israel's been doing this, especially since Assad's government was replaced by Jelani's government, the first thing they did was what? Attack the military. Remember, the first thing they did was wiped out a lot of the military apparatus that the new government had at its disposal. Now it hasn't touched the military bases the Russians are now sharing with the Syrians. You
Yeah.
know, they haven't done that. They haven't done that, but
Uh-huh.
they have intervened militarily in Syria's military. And in fact, it's in the inference is anything you do militarily, Syria, we can say is a threat to us, and therefore we'll just bomb you. So they basically have told Syria that we're going to and Turkey they were going to attack you if you develop a military alliance with anyone. I mean, except Israel, unless you let us run your country and take over your military, we're just going to bomb you. So we'll see what happens here. I would be curious if a war breaks out between Israel and Turkey via Syria. I'd be interested to see who would win. I don't think Israel would do that well, actually.
No, no.
Because
Turkey's very strong,
I
strong
mean,
military force, a big army. Yeah,
Turkey rarely shows its military force. I don't know if you noticed that. They
yeah.
rarely show their military force anywhere. I mean, kind of, as far as the aggressive, the attack nature. So it would be interesting to see how Israel what a result of an Israeli-Turkish clash would be. It just would be interesting to see how it would turn out.
A
I would,
clash could very well become the case, because the Zionist military have occupied, the southern Syria.
yes,
Now, if they refuse to leave, if Syria finally gets it together, and asks them to leave, and they refuse to leave, then the Syrian military itself, cannot take on, even a partial force of the Zionist military. So they wouldn't be able to do things, by themselves. However, if they had Turkish military support together with Russian air support, which also has a base and a port in Syria,
yeah,
well, then, they could take on Israel. They could force Israel to leave. Yeah, it would be
well,
possible.
but the issue is is there a military agreement between Syria and Russia that would allow that? I don't know that there is. I don't know that there isn't. Russia's always so reticent to take
Mm,
on Israel on in any matter.
yeah,
In any matter, they're always kind of reluctant to get involved.
yeah.
So, I would think it would be Turkey and the Syrian army, and you know, quite frankly, I would think that Syria could take this a little bit further. They need to I don't like the government. I think it sucks. I mean, and then this shows you how jihadi forces can be used by
Yeah,
regional power. Syria is a good example
yeah.
how jihadi forces can be used as proxies for regional powers. Okay, right
Just
there.
like we reported on last week, how Syria was lined up, to go and invade
Right,
Lebanon to
right,
take on Hezbollah on behalf of the United States and Israel.
right. So
But they
Syria has to,
whined, because Iran told them, not to, and they didn't.
exactly. But if Syria has to determine where is it going to stand, what alliance, where are its alliances,
Hmm.
red lines, and where are the yellow lines? I mean,
Yeah,
using that term because you can't let Israel bomb you and get away with it.
yeah,
No, no. If you're a sovereign country, you have to forego the United Nations and file a complaint. You have to
yeah,
act like you have some status. E-
yeah,
Even if you have no military status, you have diplomatic status. Yes, you do.
yeah,
And you can call Trump and says you were playing basketball in the backyard of the White House with the
uh,
Secret Service.
yeah,
Then call Uncle Donald and say, Uncle Donald, what's going on here?
yeah,
Yes, you can.
yeah.
You're in the White
And
House.
uh, and any such Syrian government that
Right.
continues to do some, play games like that, with imperialism, are going to
Yeah,
be
you got
replaced, because there's a lot of people, who would form a big opposition in Syria against, bowing down to the United States of America.
right,
And
or bow it down to Israel. Even
yeah,
the
yeah,
Jews see the problem with Syria is you let your freaking jihadis cutthroats run amok. run amok, and they were running amok. It's so bad. I still don't want to look at any Syrian Telegram channels. Just run amok,
Uh-huh.
murdering people, and they were murdering people based on whatever reasons. They were not violating the law. They were not being brought to trial. They were being murdered. Okay, that's different than bringing somebody to trial. Okay, so they have created a mess for themselves, in
Hmm.
my opinion,
Yeah.
and they need to kind of if they're going to be a government, then they got to get it together. If not, like
Yeah.
you said, some other fashion could take control.
Yeah. There was a scandal this week about that, because there's one guy who had hemophilia. It was went into a police station, invited into an interview at the police station, and then he ended up, getting beaten up, like and he died, because he had hemophilia.
Where
And
was this?
there's a big uproar
And where
in
Damascus?
Syria, in Syria. And so this was a big scandal, because people refused to go back to the days, when the Assad regime, had was a police state basically, and they were, slaughtering people as much as the jihadists, were slaughtering people as well. So,
Yeah,
I
that it
don't think the
really
Syrians are going to allow it to go back, to that state of being.
right. And this is the problem. Syria is playing too many is playing games. And somebody bombs your country, you say nothing. I mean, has the Syrian Foreign Ministry said anything about this? I would like to check. I can't check it right now. I'd be curious. Did they file
Maybe
any
once,
protests?
maybe once, a long time ago, like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but no, this is quite recent.
Uh,
Israel has said our intelligence. Well, tell you what, you attacked us 300 times in the past year and a half. I mean, every attack should have received a form of protest.
Yeah,
In
yeah, that's
Africa,
right. This last attack was this week, against
yeah,
the
this week, right?
Turkish
Exactly, this week, right?
troops. Yeah. Hmm.
So, I mean, I can say that in Asia and Africa in general. This would have received some kind of diplomatic or political response from the government. They may not
Hmm.
have gone to war with you, but they would have said something about it. If Syria doesn't say anything about it, then they're not even to me a legitimate government. Somebody's bombing your country left and right, you say nothing. My God, man, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying on the era of again, my thing is sovereignty, and that's a touchy subject to approach how to approach things because that knife can cut both ways. But
Yeah.
Syria should raise the issue of sovereignty if it's a gem if it really if it really is looking out for the interests of the Syrian people and the Syrian nation, you can't let them just bomb you or occupy your territory. My God, what's going on here?
Mhm.
No, no, no. You have to at least make a diplomatic statement. You have to do that. Whatever you tell Israel, no, this is not going to happen no more.
Yeah,
No,
it's
this
sort
is
of
not.
incredible. The Syrian government, they're playing up to the United States of America,
Sure
playing
are.
up to Lebanon, playing up to uh, Turkey,
Turkey, yeah,
and playing up to Russia,
they sure are.
all at the same time. Okay. Wow. And
And but so you're telling me that with those playing up to, you can't get Israel to stop bombing you?
yeah.
I mean, you can't get anything done, and you're basically a lapdog or a junior partner with one nuclear power. And I think Turkey has nuclear weapons myself. I have no proof of it, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Turkey had nuclear weapons.
Of
So you
their
have
own.
one nuclear power, two nuclear powers, the United States and Russia. You're playing
Mhm.
both of them. And in Turkey, and you can't get Israel to stop bombing you. They all must agree with it, or there must be division among them as to what should happen. Maybe they all need to have a secret summit and figure this out. Something needs to happen.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm serious. Maybe they all need to have a secret summit. United States, Russia, and Turkey have Syria at the table. We got to stop this Israel shit because my country can't go on like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool, man. It's just not good. And Israel can't be allowed just to be, this loose cannon. I can do anything I want. No, you can't. No, you can't. And if you do this again, we have two nuclear powers and a regional military power that probably could beat you in a war, a tit for tat war. you've shown if you've shown that you can if you run out of missiles, defense missiles that you're hopeless, and Turkey creates its own defense missiles. It doesn't have to import them. It makes them.
Hmm.
Okay, so you got a problem there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to go off on that, but I do think this Syria thing is kind of it's a serious it was a serious attack, very
yeah,
serious. And the
yeah,
wording that was used because you may have been doing something that may have no, come on, man.
yeah.
That's how police stop black people. Hey, I don't stop you. Why? Or Latin people. You resemble a black person who just committed a crime. What's the description? Oh, they were black. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if something isn't done to
Okay.
stop Israel from occupying all these territories, they're going to
Yeah, yeah,
continue to
it's
do so,
gotta.
and they're going to increase it, you know. There's nothing to stop them. Then they're going to continue, like advancing.
Yeah.
Now,
Anyway,
what about,
I'm.
the Palestine state? What about this two states solution that was adopted, by all of the world's, countries, in the United Nations and everybody? What are
um,
they doing about it? Like nothing.
absolutely, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Let's be frank about that.
Yeah. And now
Nothing's
they
happening
want to
on that.
build
Not one thing, Bill. With
now they're
this.
planning on annexing the E1 territories, extra one territories, right in the middle of the West Bank. So, like it's time, to take that on, like it's that and not just, like Lebanon and Syria and occupation and Gaza and occupation, it's the West Bank, Palestine state, that was agreed to, that even Israel had voted to agree to.
Oh
Okay,
man,
so
come
now
on,
it's
man.
time, to do it. And if they
Mm-mm.
don't do it, then there has to be some sort of force sent in there.
But the force is you in this board of peace force. How that even went down, I don't even understand. With the
Yeah,
United States and Morocco, I think United States, Morocco, and Uganda. And I was reading about it last night. Uganda's kind of sitting on the fence. Okay, they've agreed to do it, but they haven't agreed what their role is going to be. They're not, they haven't really.
yeah. That's
They tipped their
one proposed agreement. And then I heard
yeah.
that it was supposed to be a peacekeeping force, put in there by Egypt and Turkey. And nothing's happened there either,
Well,
And
that's
Netanyahu keeps on blabbering away, that they're not going to be leaving, and all
well,
that.
see, this is where this is this is where I don't want to say the great powers, but this is where Israel is going to have to get put in its place.
Yeah.
If the imperialists have a plan, I don't like the plan, Abraham. That plan is not for the Palestinians. No, it's not. But they have a plan. Israel can't get in the way.
Yeah.
Now, this is the plan of imperialism, the world system. You are at most a junior flunky in the system. We give you some guns, we protect your existence, blah, 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 but you are not going to get in our way of setting this shit up. You understand? That's how Trump probably talks, and then he got something else to say. But that's it. If this is an imperialist plan, then it's going to happen, Netanyahu. If you get in the way, well, we'll have to deal with you. And
Yeah.
that's how I think they're going to have to talk to Israel about this plan. I don't
Yeah.
like the plan. The plan's a bunch of junk. It's nothing but a bunch of junk to resettle, recolonize, steal oil, build tourist infrastructure. And the Gazans, where are they in the program?
Yeah.
Not even thought about. Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Their strategy there, they want to make life as miserable as possible for the Gazan Palestinians so that they will leave for
Believe me.
Egypt, for the Egyptian desert and the Sinai. And then that means that they will collect, the access to the gas fields offshore under the Mediterranean there, which value, are valued at from 5 to $35 billion worth of natural gas there. That Israel has already signed a contract with Egypt to supply Egypt with that natural gas, even though it's Palestinian. And Egypt, signed signed an agreement to steal Palestinian gas and to pay Israel for it. Oh yeah? Well, I don't know how long that's going to last, when the Egyptians take that into consideration. There's got to be a change in Egypt. Like there's a potential building up for a revolution in Egypt as well, if Egypt continues along these lines.
Wasn't there an anniversary recently of the overthrow of the Morsi regime, the Morsi government? Yeah,
I don't
in
know.
that square, Tahrir Square. I think it
Uh,
was last week. I think so. Yeah, and
really?
that was interesting. That
Uh-huh.
was so interesting because again, I talk about self-sovereignty maybe too much, but he was elected. I don't have to like him. We don't have to like. He was elected, and Sisi's government just literally put him in jail. He died in jail, and nobody ever said nothing about it.
Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
isn't that true? He was elected, right? And everybody talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. We can't have him in power. Well, okay, I know you don't like him for whatever reason, but he was elected, man, and then you overthrew him. You put him in jail, give him a kangaroo court trial. He died in
Yeah.
prison. Well, that's real justice. I wouldn't want that for a revolutionary force to do that. No, I wouldn't. No, I
No.
wouldn't. No, because that's gonna stain our history,
Yeah.
right? One thing about the modern revolutionaries, we know what not to do to stain our legacy, right?
Yeah.
I think we know what not to do.
Yeah. Hey, Steve,
Yeah,
let's conclude with stories.
sure.
Let's do one story each, you know. Um, I was thinking, like would start, what's the earliest or an early sort of memory of a racist attack on our lives, in our
Yeah,
lives?
I can talk about that. Earliest attack or racist attack. I was
Yeah.
about 10 years old, 9 years old. I went to some a park or somewhere to do some recreation.
Nonsense in the world already.
Hello?
Your phone plan shouldn't add to it.
Hello?
Verizon's new Simplicity plan cuts down on the nonsense in your life. Now,
Yes. Okay. We were listening to your story. This began at
Yeah.
the age of 10.
Yeah, and I went somewhere for a youth recreation activity, nothing, didn't think twice about it. And I'm walking into this place, and three or four white people, white youth, threatened me.
How? What did they say?
Racist language, you better get the
Mhm.
blank out of here. I had
Ooh.
no one with me. I never confronted this before, so I left. And that was the first confrontation based on race I experienced in my life.
Uh-huh.
So it was a gang of white youth who had threatened physical force against me
Right.
in an area I felt totally comfortable in that area. Never thought twice about going in there, really. And I didn't go back.
Hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. At about the same age, I remember myself. Um, in Toronto, Anglo Toronto, Canada didn't want to let the Jewish refugees into the country after the Holocaust. My parents only got in to the country because my father had a sister who was a citizen who had uh, migrated to Canada before the war. So my parents got citizenship, and my pregnant mother with me uh, came to Toronto, where I was born. And, there was this general sort of atmosphere. All the Anglo kids were told to not speak to strangers, quote unquote. Okay. Now, this was, for two reasons. One, you weren't supposed to speak to an adult that's trying to entice you into a pedophile
Right.
slavery. Okay. That's where, that sort of, inclination starts from. But it was extended to include those people who are not Christians. Okay. That is, the polite way of saying Jewish people or what they termed as Jews. Okay. So, you weren't, none of them, would speak with Jewish people. Okay. And, I was educated as well not to speak with them because they were probably anti-Semitic racists. And also, like I wasn't really allowed to speak to non-Jewish girls in case, like one day, you were I were to fall in love with a girl and marry a non-Jewish girl. This was forbidden as well. So, but guys, you were allowed to speak with, but the guys wouldn't speak to you. And they generally, had all crew cut haircuts, with their hair sticking up straight. And this was sort of an identity sort of matter, because the Christians had straight hair and Jewish people like me had wavy hair, and the hair wouldn't stick up straight like that. So we looked different, for that reason, in addition to having a different face. So, like I'm in the back, the schoolyard, and there's, some children playing there. I was about 9 or 10 as well, like you. And, so one guy was playing with a couple of other kids down there, and a younger kid was sitting there watching, probably the brother, younger brother. So I just come out of gymnastics and learned to do some, headstands. So I thought, okay, like wouldn't it be fun, to teach this kid, how to do a headstand. So I taught the younger kid how to do a headstand, and his older brother comes walking over, like in a military stance, and without saying anything, like he kicks me in the balls. And
Whoa.
that's how I learned I had balls in the first place. I didn't know. And boy, did I suffer. Yeah. Then, like when I recovered, they were just watching me, never talked to me, like uh, as well, without a word. And then, I said, "What did you do that for?" I didn't try to go after them, afterwards to take revenge or anything. I just said, "What did you do that for?" And they just left. That was it. That was, like life in Anglo-Toronto for a Jewish refugee kid. Yeah. That was just one incident, one of the youngest incidents that I remember. Well, there are many more stories to come, I'm sure. So,
There certainly are.
yeah, and that's enough for today then.
I think so.